Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of football inside the NFL world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on which NFL signings I do believe were the worst NFL offseason signings in NFL history. So these are the following names over the past few years that I've put down and documented in my notes as the worst NFL offseason signings in NFL history. Starting off with number one on my list, Le'Veon Bell signing with the New York Jets. Now, when you look back at it, when Le'Veon Bell signed it back in early 2019 with the New York Jets, it looked like a smart move. Because at the time, in the late 2010s, arguably Le'Veon Bell was the best running back in the National Football League with the likes of Todd Gurley, with the likes of Ezekiel Elliott at the time in the later 2010s. And Le'Veon Bell was a special running back in his prime. And Le'Veon Bell was a part of that Pittsburgh Steelers team that was just one move away from arguably winning a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, a prime Antonio Brown, a prime Le'Veon Bell. And Le'Veon Bell decided to set out the entire 2018 season because he was money hungry. He was not happy with being franchise tagged. He was not happy with the money that Pittsburgh was offering him. So he sat out the entire 2018 season. And he signed a 4-year, $52 million contract with the New York Jets in 2019 with $35 million guaranteed in his contract. When he played for the New York Jets, he was truly never the same player. He did not have the same burst. He did not have that same backfield vision in the backfield, that patience in the backfield, that 2-second step into his cuts and reads in the backfield. He was no longer the same NFL running back, and he was cut 17 games into his contract that he signed with the New York Jets. Definitely has to be the letdown for the New York Jets. It definitely has to be one of the worst NFL offseason signings in NFL history. Le'Veon Bell is on my list. Then, looking at the next one. Now, my co-host Rob Sarasula will co-sign on this. But the Kenny Golladay signing with the New York Giants during the NFL offseason definitely is one of the worst NFL offseason signings in NFL history. Kenny Golladay, at the time when he signed with the New York Giants, looked like he would be the next big thing. He did big things at the wide receiver position for the Detroit Lions. That connection between himself and Matthew Stafford looked like it was picking it up in Detroit, but he decided to leave the franchise and sign with the New York Giants. And back in 2021, he signed a 4-year, $72 million deal with the New York Giants. It looked like a star was going to be born in the Big Apple. It looked like they were going to have their best wide receivers since the Odell Beckham days, but that did not happen. And Kenny Golladay didn't even come close to living up to the contract. He finished his career with the New York Giants with 43 catches, 602 yards, 1 touchdown, and a total of 2 seasons with the franchise, and evidently got benched. It was cut by the team and has never seen an NFL roster since. Kenny Golladay, that signing was absolutely horrendous. Has to go down as one of the worst signings in NFL history. Then, looking at this one, we're going to go back in time a little bit. Brock Osweiler signing with the Houston Texans. Now, for some reason, the Houston Texans believed that Brock Osweiler was going to be the next big thing at the quarterback position after starting just 7 games in his NFL career. And Brock Osweiler really got put on the map. He was the backup quarterback for Peyton Manning in the Denver Broncos in the 2015 season when they went on to 2015-2016 season when they went on to win the Super Bowl. If you guys remember, Peyton Manning was towards the end of his career, and Brock Osweiler started taking over, and he started 7 games with the Broncos total. And then towards the end of the season, Brock Osweiler was starting over Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning took his starting job back, and the rest is history. The Broncos did finish the job, win the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning rode off to the sunset. But that offseason, after Brock Osweiler had a career record of 5 wins, 2 losses as a starter, he signed a 4-year, $72 million contract with the franchise, with $37 million being in guaranteed money for Brock Osweiler. Now, Brock Osweiler did go on to win a playoff game with the Houston Texans, but then did not perform well in the divisional round. I believe he threw 2 to 3 interceptions to the New England Patriots back in the day. But Brock Osweiler's stats with the Houston Texans in his only season there, he threw 15 touchdowns and 16 interceptions with the franchise. That definitely has to go down as one of the worst NFL signings in NFL offseason history. And then last but not least on my list, I have Josh Norman signing with the Washington Redskins. Now, at the time, Josh Norman, when he signed with Washington, they were still the Washington Redskins. But if you look back at this signing, back in the 2016 offseason, it looked like the Redskins made one of their biggest offseason signings in history, and it looked like they had Josh Norman was going to be one of their best defensive backs in Washington's history, because they had the late great Sean Taylor, arguably one of the best defensive backs of all time. His career was definitely cut short, unfortunately, due to his tragic death, but definitely was one hell of a player. Then they did sign, if you guys remember, they did have Deion Sanders, the great ball hawk, the greatest cornerback of all time, Deion Sanders. They did have him for one season, but it was just one and done. But it looked like when they signed Josh Norman, it was going to be one of the best offseason signings in NFL and Washington Commanders history, or Redskins history at the time, because Josh Norman was coming off a huge, stellar season with the Carolina Panthers, helping one of the reasons why the Panthers got to the Super Bowl that following NFL season, or that past NFL season. And Josh Norman was a lockdown guy. He was All-Pro. He had an All-Pro year. He had a Pro Bowl year in 2015 in his contract year. He was a lockdown guy. Who could ever forget that unbelievable matchup back in 2015 with the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with each other? The main matchup that everybody will always remember is that Odell Beckham versus Josh Norman matchup. That wide receiver versus cornerback matchup was absolutely great to see. But Josh Norman at the time was so good that he had Jay-Z dropping his name in the lyrics. Shout out to DJ Khaled, I Got the Keys, when Jay-Z said, "I perform like Josh Norman." After that, Josh Norman was no longer that all-pro guy. He was no longer that Pro Bowl guy. He was no longer that lockdown cornerback. And he didn't play horrible with Washington. He just never reached the heights of being that lockdown guy. That one and done year that he had with the Panthers, never reached those heights, never reached those levels with Washington, and never really ascended their defense to the next level in his days with Washington. And now that I think about it, he really never connected with that fan base. I mean, he always criticized the fan base. The fan base, I don't think, ever really liked Josh Norman. So it was just a bad experience for him on that part. But those names are definitely, to me, in the conversation for being the worst NFL offseasons in NFL offseason history. The worst signings, I should say, NFL offseason history. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.